Here on these two pictures, we have the picture on the left-hand side of the roasted butternut soup versus the chicken and vegetable soup on the right-hand side. The vegetable soup on the right-hand side is not, for me personally, it's not nearly as photogenic as the soup on the left-hand side. Turning the camera slightly diagonal, slightly sideways, and tilting the camera down for that, what we call the 30 degrees tilted perspective, which is something we cover in the classes, adds a lot more dynamic to it. So it's suddenly this pictures get a little bit more life to it. And just a big tip for those of you who are going to photograph your plate when you're sitting in front of your plate at a restaurant is that whether you're going to use your phone, your cell phone, or your camera, just face the camera straight down and then tilt the camera a little bit to the side. And then what will happen, your subject is going to fold your frame diagonally, which is going to make it a lot more dynamic. And having these, again, these pieces of bread in the foreground adds a bit of extra interest to it. I'm not convinced on the background we've used. I think we could have used a much more interesting background, but this was just one of the pictures we shot for, I think, for the manual, so which wasn't part of a particular series or so. But yeah, so just a big tip to everybody here is if you're going to photograph a very mundane, ordinary subject, just tilt your camera slightly, about 30 degrees to the side. As you can see, this plate almost takes now a diagonal shape in the frame, which makes it a lot more dynamic. And it's just a little tip, but it's going to mean a lot, especially if you're going to photograph your food at a restaurant. These next three pictures, probably I know Chef Nicolas and his students just couldn't stop talking about how great he is in creating this laminated puff pastry. Apparently, this is a real art. And I'm just going to zoom in here, just show you guys the beautiful detail in here. And my brief on this picture was, I obviously, as a photographer, I see the picture a little bit more like this. So this picture on the left-hand side versus the slightly more zoomed in picture where I shot it from slightly lower and then also zoomed in. So the picture on the left-hand side shows me all the dimensions of the product, but it doesn't show you the layering as clear as, for example, this picture in the middle. And when you zoom in, you can see all these beautiful layers of this puff pastry over here, which is apparently an art piece. I wouldn't know. As I told you guys, I'm an architectural photographer turned food photographer just because I enjoy eating it. I don't ask questions of the food and they don't ask questions of me. But anyway, Chef, can you talk to me about the importance of, if you're going to photograph a product for a chef or for a restaurant, to find out what is important for the chef, why you think this picture, I know you love this picture, and why you still think it's a good picture of your product.
I like the straight lines, the absolute cleanliness of it. It's absolutely clean, but also the imperfection. If you look at the layering of the puff pastry, it is not every single layer is puffed perfectly. There is some imperfection also on the side where the creme pat was puffed, but not scraped off at the same angle, every single one. So there's imperfection there. And I love that. I love it. It's really clean. Yeah, I think it's an absolutely fantastic shot.
And you know what, Chef? In Afrikaans, we would say, ek het 'n appeltjie met jou te skil, because I never had a taste of this. You know this. But anyway. Also, tell us how important adding these crumbs in the foreground was in just keeping this very stale, clean background, adding a little bit more life to it. Because, I mean, everybody can see it here, but why sometimes people can overdo it, but why in this picture, it just adds that extra sense of texture, which makes it a bit more lively.
Yeah, puff pastry, when you handle it, it crumbs up very easy. And that still gives them the story of, how did I compile it? How did I bring it together? Instead of having this extremely clean-cut, pure white base and background and the top of the puff, instead of, it looks like, it's a story to tell again. It comes back to after, it's a story. I've compiled it. I've assembled it naturally.
And tell me, these green elements you've included here, it was obviously purposefully done to mimic the microherbs on top.
Rock sugar.
Oh.
Or the microgreens, yeah. It's just to pick up that leaf a little bit behind the raspberry.
And also very important in terms of styling is to repeat certain colors throughout. And it just beautifully, you guys must also remember, this is the green and the red are opposite colors, which is using complementary colors are very important, especially in all kinds of photography, but especially in food photography. And I just like how you just mentioned that the fact that it picks up against the red. So you have that extra contrast between the red and the green. And then it's also mimicked down here, having the bit of green over here, which also beautifully works with the yellow over there. So it's just a gorgeous idea of you. I also remember you I remember when you styled this picture, why this was an important element for you. And yeah, that's why I mentioned this picture specifically. This particular picture of this pastel de nata, and again, my pronunciation might not be great. I just want to quickly jump to show you the actual product. And I know we did photograph the product separately. I just can't find it here in the actual folder. Let me just open this up, and no, I can't. So I'm just going to jump back to our discussion. Having the human element. I think this was your picture, Winifred. Yeah, it was. Just looking at the camera used, this was shot with the 6D. And what was your idea, having the cupped hands and showing this almost like this heart shape here? What is the importance of including the human element interaction?
Yeah, I was just going to say, always the human element just gives you a better connection with the food as well, and then the heart shape just adds to it.
Another example, and I'm going to be quick. Chef, tell us what was in here. So, I mean, I never had of this creme brulee, but tell us what was in here.
Yeah, that's a raspberry sorbet that's on the top with crystallized flowers. And then obviously something fresh, the cut raspberries, and then the mint leaf, and then a piece of sugar. But I think I love the black sugar against the red and the caramelized sugar and all these other colors popping.
So you're referring to the black sugar as this tree over here that you put on here. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. The coral sugar.
Okay, it's just gorgeous. And guys, this is just another good example of, instead of just photographing this bowl from the top straight, turning your camera sideways and how it adds that extra dimension. I deliberately we obviously used backlighting. We used flash. You can see it from the background. We shot this against a white backdrop. For us, the product was like really important. It was showing off the product. And having these specular highlights on top gives life to it. We use the same technique when you do hair shoots, is you do want those shininess. You want to show the shininess on the hair. A lot of photographers always complain if you lose some of the highlight details, but in a picture like this, you want to show the quality of the sugar. You want to show its sugar, and you want to actually burn out some of the whites over here. So we have these beautiful, beautiful, what we call specular highlights on top, which adds quite a bit of life to it. And this picture for me is all about texture. It's all the textures in here. You can see that if you're going to zoom in close, it looks delicious. Obviously, you want to just get your spoon into this, and then this is obviously shot from a different angle, and obviously this has lost a little bit of its shape, but it's an absolutely gorgeous picture. And again, you can see over here that I basically tilted the picture afterwards. It's very easy in Lightroom. Sometimes, depending on what you want to do, is you can just simply transform the picture and flip the picture horizontally and present it in a different way. Now, I just thought the movement from top left to bottom right gave it a little bit more life. So this next picture was this chocolate fondant. I'm going to show you 3 different compositions. So that's obviously shot with quite a bit of negative space in front. And something you should always consider whenever you do a photo shoot is to definitely include at least 1 or 2 or 3 pictures of your composition with extra negative space in the foreground, that somebody can add text or a bit of life to it, a bit of a story to it, if they do want to write text down. And Chef, in advertising your products, how important it is for you that we do include some pictures with extra negative space?
Very important, extremely. Like I can use the picture on the left as a flyer, you understand? The negative space at the bottom, I can put all my data in there and use it as a flyer. The picture on the right is a typical picture of a front cover of a manual, you understand? So I always look at the picture and always think of where is this picture going to? Where am I going to use it? And the negative space is obviously fantastic always to have. At the moment you don't think, oh, I don't need it. But in the future, you're like, shit, I should have taken a picture of that negative space area. I could have used it for this marketing purpose or for whatever else. It's always good to have negative space pictures like that. Definitely.
Okay. So guys,
sorry, Don, if I can add something about the negative space is often if you're working with a graphic designer, so if you're shooting for a client, the graphic designer will always say portrait, landscape, and lots of negative space, please. And in addition to that, what I often do is I'll take a photograph just of the background that I've used, so that if the graphic designer needs to bleed that space on because they need more space, then they're able to do that. So it's vital. We have the saying that a negative is positive, same as COVID.
I'm just going to zoom in here. Chef, tell the guys how difficult it was, to get this chocolate coming out. And you actually placed it with a spoon because the fondant didn't play along when you cut it open.
Yeah. To do something like a chocolate fondant for a photo shoot, it takes a really good timing. And over here, we were waiting too long for it. So when it came out of the oven, it's supposed to be cut open and then put on the plate straight away, and it oozes out. But we waited too long, so we had to physically use another fondant, scoop some juice out there, chocolate sauce, and then just dribble it in there to give that effect that it actually does when you have it in the right time frame.
I hope none of you came into this class hungry because this is almost, it borders on evil. But anyway, yeah, so these are just different angles. So you guys can see this one, I obviously cropped in a bit tighter. The reason why I cropped this one in, I just lost too much detail on that sugar strip over there and I burned it out putting too much flash on it. And I just cropped through it over here because I thought I don't want to show, what inadequate photographer I am. So I deliberately just cropped it in here, what Chef Nicolas said, like a 16:9 aspect ratio. So if you're going to look at our crop over here, you can see this is a 16:9, which is for widescreen use. And then obviously I had the tighter shot over here where my focus was on the main product. And again, showing you that sometimes you show the whole story, you show all the elements. Obviously, the wider shot is going to give you a lot more depth of field. Everything will be more in focus. But my focus is always on my main subject, always on my hero, which is the important subject. I just love those, how the red color pops here. I just love the specular highlights on top, which adds quite a bit of life. How Chef Nicolas created the highway running down here, again, using elements in the foreground. And then, so this next picture is a chicken ballotine. This is the top-down shot versus the 30 degrees or diner's perspective shot. And you can see how they have different purposes. Obviously, the twirls over here, they're just gorgeous, but I love the placement of every element here. And when you are going to style a product like this, it is really important to style it from the top down and the diner's perspective as well as the side perspective, where you're going to take a picture exactly from the side to show height of, and we're going to show that to you when I show you the hamburger shots we did later on. The potatoes were slightly undercooked, obviously, because you don't want it to lose shape. You want it to look fresh, and the micro herbs and all the other elements works perfectly. But here you can see two different perspectives. What's really important is how the chicken over here, the chicken ballotine, actually, you see the chicken product showed, it's taken out of its casing or its house. I don't know what you call this, chef. It's almost like it's taken out there to deliberately show the product. If we shot all three of them, the pieces of chicken inside those red, what do you call the red strips, chef?
It's a beetroot twill.
Okay, so this was a beechwood twill. So taking it out of the beechwood twill, you can see the actual product, which is a really important decision we made in taking this picture, so that you don't just see the twills, but you can actually see the hero, which is the chicken. And that gives me to another important point, is the hero should always feature in your picture. And like Chef Nicolas said earlier, if you're going to have certain ingredients inside the product, it's important to show it on the outside. And that's exactly what we did over here. And I just want to say this, guys, it's important that you do, again, here the hero is beautifully shown. Over here, it's a little bit more of an art piece. It's a little bit more of a beautiful, I love the composition, how all these elements have been placed, how your eye keeps on running in this circular direction. But over here, we have this really good, sharp focus on my hero, on the main subject. And just look at the beautiful reflections we have in here. Just gorgeous, gorgeous details. Again, the potato obviously seems very fresh, and yeah, just a beautiful picture. I love this picture. It was just wonderful creating it. This next couple of pictures, this was obviously a beef medallion. This one I shot again deliberately with lots of negative space, and here we just cropped in a bit. Again, the importance of showing both worlds. Also, whenever you're going to photograph a product like this, the hero was obviously the beef. Just getting close in and showing all the details and the textures makes it delicious. I mean, the vegetables are absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, even the sauce, I mean, you can see how you have the beautiful specular highlights on top that adds quite a bit of life to it. And again, show the juiciness of the product. And yeah, Chef, anything you want to say about this product particularly?
Very interesting. We've used a cabbage. So we take a whole cabbage, we blanch the whole cabbage, and then refresh in cold water. And all you do is you slice it through a meat slicer and pack all those sheets on a silicone mat and dry them in the oven. And it creates a beautiful texturized abstract garnish instead of a round circle or a square or a round, you understand? This is like a little tree thing coming out there. Oh. And I love the garnish. I love the garnish.
It reminds me a bit of a baobab almost, it's gorgeous. And I love this. This was, I mean, we were blown away. I think I spent quite a bit of time in only photographing the garnish because it was so beautiful. And I like how you scorch this, how you have these beautiful textures on here. And the importance of textures in this, in food photography is absolutely important. Textures is one of your key elements. And those of you who are going to edit in Lightroom, and even those of you who've done the course before, the importance when you're in Lightroom and you're using radial and graduated filters and you use brushes, the importance of putting extra texture on by through using of those filters or brushes, you always add texture. I never add clarity. Those of you who know Lightroom, you have texture versus clarity, and I always add texture because texture does give you that extra bit of texture in the food, which makes it pop. These next two pictures, we're going to show you off a very high-key, sophisticated look versus a more, I'm just going to show you different perspectives. Over here, it's a very high-key, modern contemporary look versus a bit more of a dark food picture. And like Chef Nicolas said earlier on, the dark food almost gives you that extra life and extra texture. The food almost seems a bit more edible. Not almost, it does. It does make it look more edible. And that's really the great thing about using dark food photography is that you do get that extra punch in your product versus, for example, if you look at this particular photograph, you do get the same specular highlights and all of that, but it's just not the same. You don't have that same direction of the lighting and that same life you get from it. And it's absolutely a technique that I think all food photographers should master. You should be able to do both. You should be able to shoot high-key, sophisticated, modern, contemporary versus dark food, more kitchen style as well. It's really important as a food photographer, you'd be able to master both because you are going to photograph different products, different restaurants with different look and feel, and it's absolutely an important part. Tell us about this. Was to me one of the most gorgeous elements I photographed, Chef. Before I'm going to talk about the technical challenges I had with this picture, why we added oil on the piece of slate. We just used a plain piece of slate to put the spaghetti on. I mean, it's an absolutely gorgeous photograph. And why it's important that on pictures like this, the food is almost always kind of raw. It's not completely done.
So, Donnie, are you talking about the oil on the slate? Why we put that on there?
Yeah, the oil, and then secondly, while it's always half done, it's never completely done. The food itself always half done, just to keep that freshness.
Yeah, the crispiness.
Yeah,
Let's say to keep its freshness to it. So, yeah, the oil on the plate. I think I made a decision to put oil on the plate. But look at it now. I wonder if it was a correct decision. Do you think?
No, I think it was.
More matte feel to the base would have been better.
I don't think so, because what I liked about it, and remember, we did shoot pictures with and without, and the matte pictures, you just lost that life. It doesn't seem, it seemed a little bit dry almost, and adding that extra bit of moisture, I thought was a very good idea. In the pictures, it actually does give you that extra reflection on the plate. Not really reflection, but you get that extra dimension. But I adore this picture. It's one of my favorite pictures, even though it was a simple top down. It's just the way you put it together, all the details in here. If I zoom in, you guys will understand why I absolutely love this picture. It's an absolutely gorgeous details here. I mean, 30 megapixels of detail. And again, you can see the use of shallow depth of field, play a role. Yeah, these microbes and all those beautiful little flowers, popping, and the purple popping against the yellow. Again, you have that very extra, that extra complementary colors, the red versus the green. It's an absolutely beautiful piece, this, and I enjoyed photographing this. The next couple of pictures, simple uses of repetition. And so over here, I photographed Chef Charles busy styling the plate and putting all the elements together. I focused actually just right on the rim of his glasses. It's not completely. I actually focused on his nose, it seems, which I don't think he liked me too much for that. But over here, this was top down. So guys, this was quite a challenge. Winifred, remember we used 2 flashes, and then one of our flashes, which was, we used battery operated flashes. We ran out of battery, and we had to keep it plugged in, and then had to wait every couple of seconds before we could take a picture to give the flash enough time to recharge. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, that's what we did.
So this top-down picture adds a lot of structure and element. I love the placement of all the elements. What's very important in a picture like this, top to bottom, there's only one small mistake I see over here, which is you don't want these elements, actually, we didn't want any element to touch except for this middle element over here touching pastry over there, which maybe is a little bit of a letdown. Everything else, there was a bit of space in between. And very often these are like small decisions you have to make, which are very often going to be good decisions. And that's why you need to train yourself. You need to understand the importance of spacing elements. Now, if I have to take this picture over again in retrospect, 2020 hindsight, you always know better. But if we just move this pastry slightly up over here, we don't have this touching into the other pastry. But yeah, I think it's almost a perfect shot. I wouldn't complain. I think even from a commercial perspective, there's nothing wrong with it. But it would have been great if we had a bit of separation. And those little elements, guys, that's going to make a huge difference in your photography afterwards, and something you're going to learn over years. You are going to expect that you're going to make lots of mistakes when starting out, and then as you're going to progress, your eye is going to develop. You're going to see things like this happen instantaneously. Obviously, we were under pressure because of the flash. I don't think I even looked at it tethered. I didn't look at it on the iPad, because if I did look at this picture on the big screen, I would have definitely moved this pastry a little bit up so that we wouldn't have touched it there. But I still think it's a great picture. So I'm a little bit pixel peeping over here. Like with this picture, you can see all the elements are perfectly spaced and perfectly placed. This row could have been moved up a little bit, but again, I didn't shoot this tethered. We were really relying on the flash to recycle. Anything you guys want to say about this, Winifred, Chef?
I personally don't like top downs. I personally don't like top downs. I like a 30-degree. If you obviously you're going to show us 30-degree angles as well, Donnie.
No, actually for this, I chose those deliberately. There's only one, I'm sure. Only one to make you happy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, it's just personal. It's just personal. I don't like top downs. I don't.
I love top downs, but then again, I guess it depends on what you're photographing as well. Because you can't see the detail of everything from a top down. And maybe if you photograph them individually, you'd see way more of each one. But I think this image, the repetition is what's attractive, and you can see it's finely manicured, each and every individual item. That's what's attracting you. But
I think when you do the styling, you've shouldered the styling. And I told him obviously to do the 30-degree. But if I told him, let's do a top-down picture and style it, then it would have been completely different. You understand?
Right.
Because your angle that you play, that's why I'm always, when I look at a product and I start compiling it together, what is my most perfect angle?
Right.
And I'm sure if you take all those components apart and you start it again with a focus on top-down, it will be completely different.
So you style with the end angle.
Exactly.
In your head, right.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I look at that platter, it looks bad. It looks bad.
I have to tell you, I again like the repetition of the elements. I
architectural. That's why.
I disagree about the fact that you see less details, because you just see details from the top, which is actually gorgeous. I mean, when you look at these little...
when you're zooming in, but if you're looking at it, if you zoom out completely, you don't see all the details. And I think maybe that's what Nicolas is saying. There's so much work into each and every individual item there, a lot of work.
Like, for example,
that you're losing if you're looking at it.
Left. I want to use an example. If you look at the target on the left, small dot piping was done with a meringue.
Yeah.
But if you look at if I've done it from the top and know this picture is going to be from the top, I would have done the piping pretty different. Understand? Yeah, that's from the front. But from the top, I wouldn't have used that piping. I would have used another piping.
Yeah, but the important thing is, just for the students' sake, is
look at that.
We did do the individual angles. We did provide it as well, because those are important. But yeah, to try different ones. I have to say, personally, I'm a big fan of those top downs because of the fact that they're showing quite a bit of detail, and they show you as an overall story, which makes it a little bit more.
They do.
So I do believe that as a photographer, you should be prepared to do different angles. But we did do the close-ups of each product, which is important. And then at the same time, the top down as well. So these next two pictures, this is an absolutely top down shot. And just to show you the amount of work, the amount of planning. So there was literally only one light source coming from behind. And then we thought these croissants, and I hope my pronunciation is good. I'm trying not to overdo it. Over here, we used a Gloxy, which is like a lightsaber, and we used an orange color sleeve to just give a little bit extra life to the croissants, to the main product. This took us a while. You guys cannot believe how long it took us just to place this teaspoon. Eventually, with the final product, there you can see Chef Nicolas placing the cappuccino. Over here, moved his hand back. But it all started like this. We're not always aware of the amount of work that goes into a picture like this. I was standing on this table shooting straight down on my subject. The amount of work it took Chef Nicolas to prepare all the elements in here. Some of these coffee beans, there was one or two missing over here. There were a couple of holes in this wooden board. And there's one, you can pick it up. So I should have removed this one. I don't know how I missed this one. But typically, you're going to clone that out. And we even added one or two coffee beans over here. This wasn't my hero shot. So this wasn't actually the final one. The final one I did edit I did take those holes out actually, so I don't know why the unedited or the one that's not as well edited as the other one made it. But you can see the beautiful textures on the product. Over here, there's my final. No, this is not the final one. Again, this one was the one with the holes in it. We did edit it out in one of the pictures. I hope so. We're not always aware of the amount of work. So we had this diffuser over here with the light coming from behind. We wanted light coming from the top. And then just to give a bit of extra life to those croissants, we had this glossy place overhead and then added orange light hitting the subject. I'm not a big fan of using any colored light in any food shot because you can warm up anything in Lightroom if you want it slightly warmer or cooler. I'm always trying to shoot as neutral as possible, shooting the most accurate color. That's why we always include gray cards, or not always, but most of the time I try to include a gray card in my initial shot as a reference picture to fix my white balance afterwards. Over here, you can see the final product looks nothing like the chaos we had in there. And then obviously Chef Vincent always producing the work for the manual. So this was the picture for the manual. That's why it was shot against a clean white backdrop, because it was supposed to go into the manual. I'm almost done, Chef. I think we're going to have another 10 minutes or so. I don't think we'll go through this whole collection. We can always have another session maybe later on. We're also going to allow some questions from the guys. But yeah, so this is a typical picture that I would take, quite adventurous. I used to slow shutter speed and then swirled the camera sideways. And to just show you the other pictures we shot of this pea puree picture is, let me just quickly go to the folder in the library so that you can see some of the other shots. So obviously there were the good old pictures over here, the straight shots. So this was your 30-degree angle. This is just a glorious picture. You can see my depth of field is very shallow towards the edge. We had one big challenge over here, which was reflection on the plate. The way I took care of it, we simply used a circular polarizer, put a polarizer on the lens, and the moment we put it, all those extra reflections went away. And little mistake in this picture, something that I pick up now. I don't know why I haven't picked it up early on. Again, yeah, I prefer the top down rather than the diners perspective shot. But a little mistake here is this plate, despite the fact that the plate is 100% in the middle of this bottom plate, what happened here is because of this perspective, you show a little bit more side here than this picture. So you always style for the camera, and I can't believe that I missed it. I didn't even pick it up early on because it's something that I've learned in interior photography a lot. You always style for the camera, not for the actual product or for the actual room or space you're photographing. This plate should have been moved slightly to the front so that it would have showed similar space to the bottom and similar space to the back as well. And those are small elements, because when you style for the camera, you're going to move things around. So when you, for example, photograph a bed, typically the typical room shot you will do for real estate or for a high-end hotel is typically taken from the doorway, the entry to whatever room you photograph. And you're normally going to, and sometimes you do take a picture from the corner of a bed, and then you actually move the cushions and everything towards you, towards the camera, so that it seems that it's in the middle. But when you actually look at the scene or at the actual scene, everything is to the side. But for the camera, it's perfect from that perspective. So that's something that's really important. I'm actually glad that I picked it up now. It's something I can talk to you guys about. So over here, you know, you have a little bit more evenly spaced. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. But over here, this plate should have definitely been moved forward to this direction. And then you would have equal space in the back. And that's very important. So you can see that kind of part of my game as a photographer, I always get the safe shots first, and then afterwards, I would go for the creative shots. So over here, I just love the green color in that middle. I like that line that the pastry made. And then what I've done is just shot it from the top and swirled the camera sideways using a slow shutter speed. And again, I thought it was a really cool shot. I should have added that again. And I just want to go to my collection again. I'm teaching from Lightroom, and I'm teaching straight from a collection. So I made a quick collection, which is really cool for products, for pictures like this. Yeah, so I'm going to show you one or two more elements here. I just want to get to put these pictures where they belong. And there again, you see the actual picture versus. So over here, you can see the importance of sometimes zooming in. I mean, the picture on the left is great, but it's not a great food shot per se. It's a nice storytelling picture. This picture on the right-hand side, we want to get in there and we want to start eating. So again, show you the importance of getting close up. So get your wide shot, get your medium shot, and always go in for the tight shot to show more details. And maybe one of the more important reasons why you should always use, not always, but why a macro lens is eventually really important. You can see that Winifred used a 100mm macro lens for this picture, and that's why we get these beautiful, beautiful details when you zoom in here. And you do want to show the details. So another storytelling picture here, something Chef Nicolas wasn't happy with having that, showing that bit of color there. And obviously it's easy to remove it in Lightroom or in Photoshop, but I just wanted to talk about it. And then I do want to show you the progression of a proper food shoot, if you do it the right way. So you're going to start like something like this, and then you're going to end up with something like this. So, Chef, this picture on the right-hand side, you can use it in multiple instances. I mean, it's just, this reminds me of that quote we have on the website, never eat your food, or eat your product before you shot it.
Correct.
Before you got the shot, yeah. But I mean, we did photograph it first, but we couldn't wait. So this was photographed during one of the chef's tables. It was an absolutely amazing evening. I had the best food in my life there. Again, guys, just show the progression. And the good news I have for most food photographers, you normally get to taste the food. The chefs are always going to allow you a taste. I promise you. That's a great thing about, unless too many hands handle it, especially now during COVID, it's a bit more dangerous. But yeah, in those days, it was fine. But anyway. Here are two black and white shots I took, in the kitchen of kneading, and I used the slow shutter speed. I did it black and white. It's just to show you that you do get opportunity to shoot a bit more artistic pictures if you want to experiment with movement and with texture and with color and tone, and go black and white, always permissible. And it's interestingly, there's a whole movement now moving towards black and white food photography, which I'm definitely keen on, because I did do quite a bit of black and white food photography in the past. Typically, it's all about texture and tone. Picture I shot 1 week when we were at the chef school. I just love the red in the back, and I kind of just photographed that. And then on this particular day, I saw this armband on Dash. We deliberately used this red roller in here to mimic the color over here. And you can see that I shot different pictures, different shutter speeds, just to show that bit of movement. So there you can see that I deliberately used a slow shutter speed. He was kneading so quickly, even though despite the fact that my shutter was quite quick, we still captured some of that movement in his hands, which just shows you the speed when things happen. So just an important element in a picture like this. Every bit of detail counts. So having this red roller here allowed us to have that combination, that repetition of the red color over there. Something that you should always consider as a food photographer. Guys, I'm done with it. Before we get to the milkshakes, we might do another session on this. I hope you liked it and you enjoyed it. I do not want to keep you for too long. But any questions from you guys? Any remarks from the panel, from Chef or from Winifred?
Oh, I love that shot. That's one of my favorites.
I think these are actually student shots. This one was shot by, let me just have a look here on the metadata. This picture was taken by Thenu, who's one of the students, and this one was shot by my good friend Glenn Fouchier. So very similar composition. So those were shot by them during one of the classes. I love it. Can you maybe talk them through this picture, Chef? How do you find the lighting and how this kiwi fruit chips, how they beautifully pop with the right amount of light on them?
Yeah, so basically we did a hot toddy here, and then we've added dry ice to it to create that smoky feel around it. But I really love is the focal point on the kiwi. So it almost look like glass, and the sugar straw coming through. The darkness behind it, obviously, the dark photography here pushes that whole product into your face. If this was done obviously on light photography, you would have never had the same effect, never ever. And the bubbling, the moment that the dry ice get in touch with the hot liquid, you can see the bubbles in the actual glass. Yeah, that's outstanding.
This picture, the picture on the left was our first attempt at shooting the hot toddy. So what the guys don't know in the class is that we typically do a shoot of the products beforehand. And we plan some of these pictures meticulously. It's a lot of work for Winifred and I. And then we go and mimic it. So the picture on the left-hand side was during a previous session where we shot the hot toddies with pineapple chips. And then obviously we figured out we could have improved on the picture. So the one on the left-hand side was actually shot with bright lights. And if I'm just going to go to this particular folder, I might just be able to show you one of the final products here. So this was obviously a behind the scenes shot. I just need to get to see the date, and then I can maybe find the final picture here. So the great thing about Lightroom again is that you always have the metadata over here. As you can see that we shot this on the 31st of July last year. So I just need to make my way to that particular date. Okay, there we go. So here you can see some of the pictures we've done. And again, the dark food ones were really much better than, for example, the high key ones. See, the high key, we lost that smoke. We lost everything. It didn't work out. And immediately we realized, listen, it's just not working. Just couldn't get enough contrast. We dropped this as a bad job. And then we went for the low key shots. And as you can see, the last picture we did was much more spectacular. I think also because of the placement of using the kiwi chip instead of the pineapple chip, and also the placement of the chip made quite a difference in it. It was almost a very similar setup, similar lighting, everything, but we just couldn't get it the same than the other shots. So that's kind of important as well. There's always a progression. You're going to very often, you're going to fail, and then you're going to just rework everything and plan to do it again, decide on what went wrong, and then you're going to try again. Now we're going to leave this open for you guys. If the panel is not going to want to say anything or want to point us to anything particular, let's wait for you guys to see whether you have any questions, please. And we really need the questions. We need it, because if we answer your question, we answer.
Donnie?
Yes.
I'm always there to ask a question.
Right.
So for someone like me that's been using only natural light to do food photography, how much would it cost me to buy enough equipment to just start just the basic stuff? Because remember, I was so generous to give my whole studio kit away. So I don't have anything left anymore. I've only got my camera, and I've only got my two lenses, and I don't even have a reflector anymore. So obviously you'll have to buy some basic stuff. So more or less, how much would you need to spend on that?
So I would start, and Winifred must help me out.
And what would you need? Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Winifred must help me out here.
I think sorry, Donnie, you go.
I wouldn't start with flash straight away. I would really go for some LED panels. I know at Outdoor Photo, they have these new LED panels, like the same as a Gloxis, it's a stick. You would need about 2 of them, I would think, as a good startup, especially for dark food photography, because 2 of them you can create magic, and then you can add more lights as you continue. You're going to require a couple of full cards, which are those white cards we have in the picture. So let me just get to one of those examples. So these art boards, we call it foam boards, something we talk about. By the way, those of you who are going to do the food photography workshop, Winifred's made up a package where she's going to sell you just a startup kit with some dry material and some of these foam boards as well. So you're going to need probably about 2 or 3 of these foam boards, Marietta.
But Marietta, what we saw during our first food photography course is that a lot of the students didn't have all the lighting, and we played around a lot with the boxy lights, and those lights are not that expensive when you compare the pricing of lights. And if you use those, Bloxy and a pixel, and you've got your fills and your flags, you can get very far with that.
Okay.
Having said that, I do feel with those lights, you do need to tripod. If you don't have a flash, if you're not using flash, there's no question about not using a tripod. You can't be lazy and shoot by hand. You've got a tripod.
At least I've got that.
It's not about whether you have it. Often it's whether you have the discipline to put it on the tripod. Especially with food, you want to find that angle. It's such a small degree of changing the angle that it's often way easier doing it by hand. And then you tend to get lazy and not put it on a tripod. Yes. But you can manage with really the basics. We did find that during the course there were many students that wanted to carry on and photograph at home, whether it was for hobby or more than that. And it is possible without breaking your bank account to do that.
How long is the course?
We do a 3-day foundational and a Zoom session. That's the foundational course. And then we've got additional, we call them specialist shoots after that. So you can include your specialist shoots if you wanted to in the whole course, or you can just do the foundational course. So it would be 3 Sundays not in a row, but 3 Sundays, a full day, plus then a Zoom session.
Okay, thank you.
So Marietta, to give you a good idea, this is a dog food shot that we added. This picture on the left-hand side was obviously Chef Nicolas wanted to show all the products he uses. So this is sugar, by the way. So to get that beautiful texture, we literally only needed 1 light. So we only needed 1. We used the LED light here, which is like an LED panel. And then we punch a little bit of light back using this full card over here. We used a black backdrop, which is like a backdrop, but we could have used any backdrop for that matter. And then we used another full card from here to punch a little bit more light into this foreground. The final picture were actually looked slightly different. I think it was a little bit more sophisticated. The lighting was a bit more sophisticated. And then obviously in Lightroom, this is like a quick tweak or 2. You're just going to make the blacks pure black, and it's going to take you like 10 seconds to edit it in Lightroom. And so these were all pictures that Chef Nicolas wanted us to shoot for one of his workshops where he shows off all the products he uses. So you are going to get a lot of pictures like this, and the great thing about the chef school is we become family with the chef school. So when we get invitations to the chef's tables, to the high teas, as a photographer, Chef Nicolas is never going to mind you take your camera with and take some pictures. The picture I posted on Facebook today where I asked, what is this? This is actually a piece of sugar, and this is Chef Nicolas' signature. And what we've done in photographing this, I've used that same setup, but even an easier one with only 1 simple key light, which is an LED panel. So at Outdoor Photo, they do sell those panels. We do sell the Bloxies as well at a better than retail price. Typically in the classes, we also provide circular polarizers. So I would say you're probably going to look at about 3,500 Rand for a good startup. And then you can do dog food at least. You can't do a high-key, bright flash photography, which then you could cost you a little bit more money for flashes. But I would say, starting with continuous light will be the quickest solution, like Winifred mentioned. You don't need everything. Guys, just the great thing about these pictures, they were all shot with a single light source. I mean, just you need to know how to control the light, where to flag the light. And it was a really, really simple setup. Again, we sometimes overcomplicate things. I think when Winifred and I started at the school, we overcomplicated everything. We used almost every light we could. And then eventually we would walk in and we would just use a single light source with a couple of full cards, and we get even better results. We also learned quite a lot from the courses we presented because we did prepare well for every class. We wanted to get the students to get the easiest shot. And even during the classes, I remember Odette, I don't know if she's still here, but there was once or twice where Odette came with proposals, even Glenn, and we followed the proposals in the classes, and it actually worked out perfectly for us. So that's the beauty of collaboration and having other people having a different eye, because you're never an island. You always work in a team. And that's what we hope to to teach the students is that you're part of a team. I've learned so much from Chef Nicolas, despite all my ignorance and not knowing all the products, because I don't even pay attention to it. To me, it's just the beauty, the aesthetic, the art of the composition and the light and the color that matters. I'm not a foodie per se. And I say that's why I brought Winifred in, because I realize I'm not a foodie, but I understand light and understand composition and understand color. And that's why I thrive in working with Chef Nicolas and with Winifred, because they fill in my gaps. And the same with the students. I mean, we really, I think a lot of the students got home. If I can show you some of the portfolios they shot, I know some of them showed some amazing portfolios that's actually commercial ready. It's as good as any commercial job out there. And we hope that this year we're going to push it even further. We're going to do a little bit more action. We want to do some wine shots as well, photographing wine bottles, which is really, it's been my plan from last year onwards, and show the guys how to get perfect wine shots. So we're going to keep on growing. And the beauty of the food photography workshop, if you've done it once, then you can do all those specialist shoots, which are one-day shoots where you focus on specific products for only 900 Rand per shoot. So, I mean, you can't, even the products cost you much more than 900 Rand. And so it's actually just a win-win for us and for the students. So if you're interested in food photography, make sure you join us. And remember, no matter what your experience level is, photography is never a linear process. It's never a linear learning process. You don't start at point A and then finish at point Z. Sometimes you get to point V or to point G, and then you jump back to point A, and then you just progress. It's just adding knowledge on top of each other and bringing, but there's certain things that you have to master. You have to at least know your camera, which we teach during the basic class already. And if you know how to change your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, you're probably okay to do the food photography workshop. I don't know if anybody else want to say anything. I mean, I'm just going to show some pictures here. Hopefully we can have another session like this. I absolutely adore this. I love this off-the-cuff approach we did today. Just to show you guys, for example, again, different ways. So these shots, for example, were all ideas by students. The one I shot on the left-hand side, the one on the right-hand side, I think was Glenn's composition. I shot it, but I think it was his idea. I remember well, I'm not sure. There you can see, just the same product photographed on 3 different backdrops. I prefer the one on the left-hand side and the one on the right-hand side. The one in the middle is a bit boring for me, but they're all glorious. They're all gorgeous, and that's the beauty of playing with your food. Anybody?
I think that's what's so nice about the course is the collaboration between everyone, and that there is really enough time to experiment, and that we allow that experimenting amongst all of us. Nothing's right and nothing's wrong, and we have fun doing it. Marietta, I just wanted to say one more thing about the lights. I've even done a shoot with a ring light that I bought at the China Mall, and it worked just fine.
Well, I've been thinking about doing that.
Absolutely.
Marietta, that's actually one thing. What we were always almost deceiving you. Actually, those ring lights, if you have 2 or 3 of them, you can create beautiful light.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Ashley, you've got a question?
No.
Hi, everyone. Donna, you were
sorry.
asking who I was earlier. I'm Paula Hardy's niece. Not sure if that helps you or rings a bell.
Great. Now I know you.
You're good. I was just curious. I have a friend who works for Gordox, I'm pretty sure. I can't really remember. And just with you guys were using dry ice as like smoke in the previous photos. And you did say there was a few complications that you had with using it. So I was just curious. He was telling me like all his tricks and stuff, and he said that he uses vape smoke for a lot of his shoots, because it's way easier to access, and obviously there's less complications with it and stuff. So I was just wondering if you guys would ever use that, like if it's a good idea. I know obviously COVID and all this crap, but just curious.
Actually, in our previous class, we decided that we are going to move to vape because we picked it up from somebody told us about it. And then the other thing is, I want to tell you, we actually used a steamer as well. And Winifred and I realized if you're going to shoot cappuccinos, it's much better to add a bit of smoke because you can get the perfect smoke in Photoshop. Whereas even with vape, you can't always get the shape of the smoke you want. And then so most commercial food photographers will actually just add a quick layer with smoke afterwards because you get the most beautiful patterns of smoke or anyway.
Steam.
Yeah.
And also smoke and steam and dry ice, they differ in that some go down and go and lie down on the bottom of the table, and some immediately rise up. So you've got to take into consideration if it's steam that you want coming out of a cup, it must be moving up. It can't be falling down onto the table. But yes, way easier just to Photoshop it in afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. Didn't even think about the Photoshop because I did a photo shoot the other day and I used vape smoke and stuff, and it literally looked insane. And even for videography and stuff, it looks really, really cool. It's just, I didn't even think of Photoshop.
Yeah, no,
but sometimes it's impressive for clients, actually. So it's also good.
Yeah.
I do want to say the vape is something we decided actually already. We decided that we're going to move to vape smoke and with a future shoot. So it's thanks for saying that. It's good that you mentioned it. Any other questions from you guys?
Donnie, just a comment, and you mentioned it earlier, and that is that it's not in isolation, the food photography or the product photography. You know, if you think of a B&B, a restaurant, a hotel, you know, there are people involved and there's a venue involved. So it really, you can't actually easily go and only shoot a product. People want to be involved, similar to the photos that you showed. There must be an interaction with people. There's got to be a venue. So it's actually bigger than only just the one item.
It's so true, Glenn. I've got such a good example. I had to photograph a 50th wedding anniversary for someone that I know via. Little did I know, I did the shoot of the 50th wedding anniversary at a restaurant that they owned. And it was in COVID time last year, and they had just brought out a range of frozen food. So they needed photos of their frozen food for the sleeves. Little did I know that they also have a guest house. So it's exactly what you say. It's all intertwined, and you have to be prepared for that so that you are comfortable enough to take on anything that comes your way. And it's very nice if that happens, because it means there's a job after a job after a job.
Guys, we finished. I'm going to finish in just about 5 minutes. We said it like 20 minutes ago. The importance of simplification. Yeah, you can see, Chef, how we removed the top elements and how much better the picture works over here. And that slightly different angle shooting down, which Chef Nicolas says is really important for us to show the layering of the milkshake from the side. By the way, Chef, I still feel bad that I never had any one of these milkshakes.
Don't worry, Johnny, we're doing it in December. When are we doing this shoot again? November.
Milkshakes, December, 5th of December.
It was given away anyway. But anyway, so this is a picture of one of the wooden boards that we photographed, very much like my seascapes. I just saw this opportunity. I think we had this discussion, Winifred, where we said, Donnie, it looks quite a bit, I think it was you or somebody said it looks quite a bit like your seascapes. I can't remember who said it. We just photographed the wooden board, and if I can show you, for example, some of the pictures I have in my portfolio, you know, it's very much that. I just need to find that one particular picture. I don't know where it is. I've got just exactly similar picture, just with a black and white sea. I don't have it here in this collection here. I just thought of that picture when I saw this. And the cool thing is you can make your food photography, you know, there's always a lot to play with, except for not only playing with your food, you know, to just play with ideas and bold on ideas. And the good thing is that you guys, some of you just starting out now, it's just a great journey that's awaiting you. I didn't even talk about the importance of showing like a hero shot, shooting slightly from below and making the product even bigger and overpowering. And we didn't even talk about aspects like that, which I wanted to. I think the conversations went too deep. But there's like a little mistake here that Chef Nicolas pointed out afterwards. And those are the kind of things that you often have to consider, is not having the same element in here. So there was that slight gap which Chef Nicolas complained about. And it was too late because then the milkshake was already started degrading. So, but I mean, doesn't this look delicious? And I hope you guys are hungry now and you're going to go to McDonald's. No, it's closed. It's COVID time and you're going to buy a nice, okay, you can go buy milkshakes tomorrow, but don't buy it from McDonald's. Go get it at the FBI Chef School. Over and out from me. Any last question? We're going to take a last few questions, maybe a last remark from you, Chef. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's session. I think it was a great session.
I was wondering if you already paid for the whole 7, like the basic and the specials course. The specials course that was put onto the schedule previously, are those the ones that are included into the package, or is it like you can choose your specialized course?
No, they're all included. So if you're going to do the full course, the 7-day one, you get to do all 4 the specialist classes. So
okay.
If you can't do one now, say for example, you have something on over that weekend, we'll allow you the following year to do that same specialist course again.
Okay, thank you.
Guys, any more questions? So some of you, I haven't seen you for ages. A lot of old students here. So I'm not saying...
Donnie, Nicola has a question.
Yes, Nicola, sorry.
It's a silly question, but I was just wondering, when you guys are talking about the vape, is there like a guy... How do you do that? Does someone like... do you have a machine, or does someone like blow the vape all over the food?
Remember,
you're going to blow the vape all over the food, Nicola. It's COVID food, unfortunately.
Just remember, with a vape, you can get a lot of smoke out without actually having to blow it. So it's kind of cool. We did investigated it prior to this, and we said next time we are going to use the vape. Which Ashley, when she mentioned it, I thought, well, we should have done that a long time ago, but then again, for cappuccinos and stuff like that, I just find I can add the perfect direction of the steam if I just Photoshop it in, because there's so many layers available in Photoshop. It's just quick to do it. Any other questions from you guys? And it's a good question, Nicola. You never ask bad questions. Anybody else? Claire from Kempton. Chandra, it's time for a question.
I have one for Chef Nicolas, if he's up for it. The cake cooking class where they do the stargazing glaze on the top. Are you running a class for that this year?
Which class? Just say that again.
The one that that Winifred took the photo of from the top down, and that Dani took it dribbling down, the cake in the pot. Are you running that before we photograph it?
Yes, it's running. It's in November, end of November.
Okay. I'll grab the dates off you if there's room available. You're welcome. Makes me so hungry. I want to come along and do it.
Any questions? Dave, Mr. Dave Herson. I'm glad to see you here, old friend. Nothing from David.
Nothing from him.
Guys, then I think that's a wrap.
Nicola, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I have another question. I just want to ask Chef Nicolas, do you have any like one day, or maybe not one day, even like a few day courses on macarons?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I'll get your contacts from Dani, because I've tried that so many times and it always like flops. So I'm going to get to do that one day.
Yes, you're welcome.
And they're delicious. I vouch for the fact his macaroons are delicious.
Guys, I think it was a great evening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the team. Chef Winifred, thank you. You guys are such a blessing in our lives, and it's wonderful knowing you. Yeah, I'm out of here. And remember those shout outs, guys. Remember to ask us questions, and I will also post Chef Nicolas's detail to you. I'll send you his details, Nicolas. And anybody else who's interested, talk to us. I'm going to chat to you guys. And yeah, by the way, there are going to be 4 few more Zoom sessions during this period. So just be on the lookout on your WhatsApp groups. So check you guys later. Cheers.